Ethan Walker sat in his dimly lit apartment, staring at his laptop screen, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. The cursor blinked at him, mirroring his own hesitation. His inbox was filled with rejection emails, failed job applications, unanswered proposals, and a reminder that his rent was overdue. Life had never felt so hopeless. The city outside his window was alive, neon lights flashing, sirens wailing, people laughing in distant bars. But inside, Ethan felt like a ghost, drifting through life with no real purpose. Tonight, however, something strange happened. As he refreshed his emails one last time before shutting down, a new message popped up. The subject line read, "Don't give up." Ethan frowned. He didn't recognize the sender. There was no name, just an email address that looked like a random mix of letters and numbers. Curious, he clicked on it. "Ethan, I know you feel lost right now. I know you're ready to give up. But trust me, you're closer than you think. Keep pushing forward. The world isn't done with you yet." A stranger. His heart pounded. Who was this? How did they know what he was feeling? A cold shiver ran down his spine. Was someone watching him? He looked around the room, suddenly aware of the shadows in the corners. He lived alone. No one should know what he was going through. He hesitated, then typed back, "Who are you?" No response. Minutes passed, then an hour. The eerie silence felt heavier now. Maybe it was just some weird spam email, a coincidence at best. But deep down, something about it felt intentional. Days passed, but the message refused to leave his mind. Every time he thought of giving up, when another job rejection arrived, when his fridge was empty, when he stared at the eviction notice, the words came back to him. "You're closer than you think. The world isn't done with you yet." Then, just when he had almost convinced himself it was meaningless, another email arrived. "Go to the cafe on 5th Street, 3 p.m. Sit by the window." Ethan's pulse quickened. Was this some kind of joke? A setup? He had nothing left to lose. So, the next day, he found himself at the small cafe on 5th Street. The bell chimed as he entered, and he took a seat by the window, just as the message instructed. Time passed. He checked his watch, 3:10 p.m. No one had approached him. Then, a waitress placed a cup of coffee in front of him. "I didn't order this," he said. She smiled. "It's from the man in the corner." Ethan turned. In the farthest booth sat an older man, gray-haired, wearing a worn-out suit. He met Ethan's eyes and nodded. Hesitantly, Ethan stood and walked over. "You sent the emails?" Ethan asked. The man gestured for him to sit. "Not exactly, but I knew you'd come." Ethan's mind raced with questions. "Who are you?" The man exhaled slowly. "Someone who's been where you are." The man introduced himself as Jonathan Reed. Years ago, he was in the same position, broke, hopeless, on the edge of giving up. But a stranger had stepped in, given him guidance, and changed the course of his life. "You think you're alone, Ethan," Jonathan said. "But you're not. The world is filled with people who have been in your shoes." Ethan clenched his fists. "But why me? Why now?" Jonathan slid an old worn-out notebook across the table. "Because it's your turn." Ethan hesitated before opening it. Inside were pages filled with names, dates, and stories. People who had received a message just like he had. People who had been saved by a stranger's words. This is real?" Ethan whispered. Jonathan nodded. "The person who helped me was helped by someone before him. And now, it's my turn to help you." Ethan felt his throat tighten. He had spent so long believing he was alone. But here was proof that hope was passed down, from one lost soul to another. "Life tests us," Jonathan said, his voice heavy with experience. "It pushes us to the edge. But the ones who keep going, they're the ones who change everything." Ethan spent hours talking to Jonathan, learning about the silent chain of hope that had been passed down through generations. And then, Jonathan handed him a letter. "This is for you, but you'll only understand it when the time is right." Ethan took it, but before he could ask anything more, Jonathan stood up. "Wait, where can I find you again?" Ethan asked. Jonathan simply smiled. "You'll know when it's your turn." And with that, he walked out into the bustling city, disappearing into the crowd. That night, Ethan opened the letter. "One day, you will find someone who needs this message more than you ever did. When that moment comes, don't hesitate. Pass it on." Tears blurred his vision. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him. purpose. He wasn't alone, he never had been, and when his moment came, when he saw another lost soul drowning in their own darkness, he knew exactly what to do, because sometimes, all it takes is a message from a stranger to save a soul. Sometimes, hope comes from unexpected places. A small act of kindness, a simple message, or a stranger's words can change everything. No one is truly alone, and if you're struggling, remember, you are closer than you think to turning things around.